Hello, Jerry Garner, your neighborhood realtor, back again this week with a little more about the buying and selling processes of homes. The last few weeks we've been talking about the buying side of homes. We've talked about looking at homes, what to look for, making offers, those kinds of things. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about the escrow period. How long is it? What happens during escrow? What's the process? Exactly what is escrow? What is title? Now we'll talk about that probably next week, but let's talk about the process. Once we get an offer accepted, we've made an offer, the sellers have signed the offer, there's acceptance, we're in agreement, we start escrow. That would be day 0. Escrow periods are normally 30 to 45 days, but they do vary depending on the type of loan and other situations. But let's go with a 30-day escrow for the example today. Day 0, we have 17 days under a normal contract to remove our contingencies. So what are our contingencies? We have the loan contingency, we have the appraisal contingency, and we have the inspection contingency. Now, once we get an escrow, we'll forward the contract to our lender, and they'll get the loan approvals and appraisals and those kind of things going. But let's talk about the inspection contingencies. We will have 17 days to determine if this property is good enough, if it is what we expect. We highly recommend doing a professional home inspection during that first 17 days. I recommend doing it in the first 10 days, so we have a few days to work it out if there are issues. A professional home inspector usually charges about $300 for an inspection. It takes about 3 hours, and they're a general practitioner. Now, they don't specialize in plumbing, they don't specialize in roofs, but they have a general knowledge of all of the above. If there's a plumbing problem, they may not be able to tell us exactly how much it is to fix the problem, that kind of thing, but they'll point out the problem, and if we're concerned, we may want to get a plumber to take a look at that. Normally that's not necessary, but it could be. So first 10 days, we schedule a time when you, the buyer, myself, and the inspector can get together for about 3 hours in the home and just go through it top to bottom. When you walk out of that inspection, you'll walk out with a printed report, pictures, and information about the home, line by line. Now, there'll be a lot of things, unless it's a new home, so don't be too worried about seeing some red ink. However, we want to know if they're normal problems, normal wear and tear, or if they're a big problem. What we don't want is to close escrow and find out we have a $5,000 problem that we did not expect. Problems are okay, surprises are not okay and to be avoided. So we do a thorough home inspection. We determine if there's big issues or if there's things that we're okay with. Once the inspection's done, we'll take a look at that inspection. You know, can we live with issues on the inspection, or do we need to write a request for repairs? Now, if we see some things we just can't live with or we'd like the seller to fix, we'll write up a request for repairs and sell it to the selling agent. Hopefully he'll convince his sellers to do the repairs and to take care of it, or not. They can either agree to do the repairs, they can give a credit for the repairs, or they can just not do the repairs. If they choose not to, what's our recourse? Well, we can back out of the deal without losing our deposit. Now, we spent money on an inspection, and we may have spent some money in escrow, but our deposit is still safe. We're within our 17 days. So we've done our home inspection, we've written a request for repairs, and let's say that that went well, they agreed to what we needed to have done, and we move on. While this is all happening, the loan's being processed. The appraiser comes out. Now, the property must appraise for at least as much as we offered on the property. If we offered $400,000, the appraisal needs to come in at $400,000. Because what's going to happen is the bank will only finance a percentage of appraised value, not necessarily what we offered on it. So if it's an 80% loan, and the appraised value is $380 and we offer $400, well, we're going to have to come up with an extra $20,000 in cash. Now, we probably won't want to do that. If the appraisal comes in low, which is kind of a rare occasion, but if it comes in low, what we'd do is we'd just go back to the seller and say, listen, we'd love to give you $400,000, but the appraisal came in at $380. We're going to have to drop our offer to $380. Now, they can say, well, yeah, since the appraisal came in low, it'll probably happen again if I start over again. Okay, we'll accept that. Or they can just say no, or something in between. Again, that's something to be negotiated during the process. These things need to be done in the first 17 days. That's a standard and normal contingency period. There are times when a seller will reduce those contingency periods to 10 days or thereabouts. And that may be okay, but we need to get on it, and we need to know within that time period, do we want this property, do we want to move ahead or not? Once we remove our contingencies, we sign a paper saying we no longer have our inspection contingency, our appraisal contingency, our loan contingency. Well, if we back out after that, basically the seller's going to keep our deposit up to about 3% of the purchase price. And that's not good for anybody. Everybody wants the deal to close, and nobody wants anybody to lose any money. But so we've got to stay on. We've got to get our inspections done. We've got to do our due diligence to make sure that we, in fact, do want this property. And come 17 days, we should sign that contingency removal. We owe it to the seller. They want to know they got this house sold. They want to know that they don't have to start over again. And, of course, we want to know the same thing. So we're going to do our investigation and do our due diligence, and we'll remove our contingencies within the 17 days. Or back out, possibly. We may find something that's very wrong, and they may not want to fix it, and we have the option to back out. What happens if 17 days comes and goes and we don't sign the contingency removal papers? Well, they can't keep our deposit, but what they can do is they can cancel the escrow and move on to their next buyer. And very honestly, they can and will if they have another offer, especially if it's higher than ours. So the point of the story is we want to stick to our time frames. We want to do our due diligence, and we want to move forward. So all's gone well. We've removed our contingencies. Now we get down to 4 or 5 days before the close of escrow. COE, close of escrow. That's when it's done. That's when it's recorded with the county clerk, and the property is ours. So 3 or 4 days ahead of that, we want to go back out to the property and take another look. Now, this look is not to find new and improved problems. This look is simply to make sure that the property is in reasonably close to the same condition it was last time we saw it. There's been no graffitis, nobody broke in, there's not been any issues. And if they agreed to fix something or making some changes, we want to make sure that those changes have been done. We also want to make sure that the ceiling fans, kitchen sink, those kind of things are still there. Now, normally this isn't a problem, but we want to take this opportunity. You never know when vandals could come into a vacant home and do some damage, and we certainly don't want it to be on us. That would be on the seller's insurance. If we did find problems, we'd go back to the seller and say, hey, listen, this has happened. Would stop escrow. They'd come in, take care of the issue. Once that's done, would move escrow along to the close of escrow, and all would be good. Now, a lot goes on during escrow, and there'll be times when we have to go very, very quickly, and there'll be times when it seems as if nothing's happening. Well, there are things happening, and those 30 days are filled with activities, some of which you as a buyer will be heavily involved in, and some of which happen behind the scenes. In any case, that's what happens during the escrow period, and next week we'll talk exactly what is escrow, who do they work for, whose title, why do I need a title company, why do I need to pay them? So let's talk a little bit about escrow and title next week. You have a great day.